The project is about Newcastle. It's about the history of Newcastle, it's about the shape of Newcastle, the sound of Newcastle. It's physically a wall of sound around Newcastle along the medieval walls. It's recreating something that isn't there, but using something which actually isn't there as well. So there's something quite nice about making something physical out of sound because it's just not there. Yeah. How much rain do you get in Newcastle? I'm at Newcastle levels yet. They used to use sound more often in the city to mark things, whether it's time or an event or a warning or for whatever reason. But mostly it was about time. It was marking time, and time was marked with sound. And I hadn't contemplated that, and I hadn't contemplated when I started the project the importance of marking time with sound and the role that's always had. People say that they, you know, within a shortened living memory, remembering the sound of the shipyards and the whistles at the shipyards, marking the shifts, and that was the sound that's gone. But that's part of it. It's that kind of using that sound to kind of just trigger an event or just remind you or something, and that's been quite nice. The opportunity to do something here for the Great Exhibition was to do something with whistles that worked within the landscape of the city and say something about it, and say something about the layers of narrative that make up a sense of place, about who we are living in the north and where we've come from and where we're going. I mean, this whistle, it was important for the whistle to be the right whistle. So it had to be a whistle that was used on engines that went to Newcastle station. The only way to build that whistle is exactly the same way as you would have made it in the 20s and 30s.
My name is Stuart Duffy and I'm part of the William Lane Foundry team. I joined the company straight from school in '77 at the age of 15. 41 years later, I'm still here. We cast brass, we are a brass foundry, and that's how we got involved with making the brass whistle. They use brass on most steam engines or trains with brass whistles. Yeah, it's the first time we've done a whistle. We've done many strange things, but it's the first time we've done a whistle.
So from there, it was then researching what those engines were. Our next step was then going to an engine and taking a whistle off an engine, taking it apart to see how it worked. And that's where we got our first drawings from, was sort of physically measuring whistles off of an engine. I then went to the archive at the National Railway Museum and trawled through their archives to find drawings of whistles, and I found a drawing that was drawn at Stevenson Works here in Newcastle for engines built in Darlington, which is where the whistle was made. So that was a drawing for a whole range of engines that were built in the 20s and 30s in Darlington. And so it was important that that stuff was right.
Well, Steve approached us back end of last year, so we decided to nip up to a local engine house, measure the original NER whistle of a working locomotive, and then come up with a design that we could run on compressed air. It's a fairly basic design, as was the original NER whistle. The whole job's on the centre lathe. We machine the bell first, then the stem, then the base. All in all, it's a couple of hours machining. It's about half an hour to polish, because at the end of the day it's got to look nice as well. So we have a hole in the bottom, the air enters through the bottom, out through these holes on the side. It follows this radius round inside the cup. There's this very small parallel portion at the edge of the lip plate. It's squeezed up through a little gap and it'll hit the bottom of the knife edge on the bottom of the bell, causing it to scream. Once we have all the pieces machined up, we take it to the polisher, get it all polished up, and pretty much that's it, and then they're ready to go.
I'm Dylan McKee, I'm the co-founder of Nebula Labs. So we are working to build a set of Raspberry Pis to make the timing work and the firing work. So the scheduling that we're building will make the whistle go off every day exactly at 1 o'clock and make sure that all the whistles are in sync when they go off and in the right order.
I'm Nick Flynn, the co-founder of Nebula Labs. So I'm doing a lot of the deployment for the project. I'm also going to be going up on a lot of rooftops with Steve and the team, trying to make sure that they're all installed correctly and that all the whistles fire right the first time. I feel like it's very much in the spirit of the exhibition. I mean, it's what they're sort of going for, showing off the sort of real highs of the tech in Newcastle, married with, well, the steam engine being built here and what Robert Stephenson did.
an intentional part of the project was to link this 19th century technology with 21st century stuff. When I first approached the guys at Nebula Labs, and they said, actually, what we need to make it is a Internet of Things device. That's kind of a nice fusion. It was important to make the piece a moment in time as well, as it is about marking time. And it was important that it marked where we are now, and it wasn't just 19th century technology. It had to have where we are now.
Your head. Yeah. I think I've got it there.
You ready? Yeah.
I think the piece is more about the way that the sound is travelling through the city and describing the city. The whistle is a device that we're using to make the piece, but the piece is not about steam engine whistles. It's not about the 19th century. It's about much more than that. It's about describing the town. It's about describing the scale of the place, the history, but also the future. We're using the technology. It's using the sound and getting people to look up at the tops of buildings to find out where they are. It's having a sound which isn't there normally. It's having something interrupting people's daily lives. Everybody can make their own connection in whatever way they want. Everybody can hear it. Everybody hears it the same because everybody's experiencing it in the same regardless of where you come from and how old you are. So it'll mean something to different people in a different way. Yeah, and then it's not mine anymore. It's nice.